So recently, it seems like the Pokemon market has started to cool off a bit. A couple of reasons being, the summer, Scarlet and Violet era, all the sets are already pretty expensive as they are. And just right now, nothing in Scarlet and Violet has been going crazy. So people have been talking about, the market has been cooling off. And it sort of has been. I mean, you can see that with sales volume. Scarlet and Violet, just overall right now, nothing is going crazy. And, right now with Scarlet and Violet, it's really hard to decide, I guess, what exactly you should invest into. Obviously, if you buy the older stuff like Paldea Evolved, it's probably not the worst decision to buy now. But obviously, all the new sets, Prismatic Evolutions, Destined Rivals, it's all a toss up. Obviously, there's arguments on both sides whether it right now is a good buy or not. So it's really difficult to say right now in Scarlet and Violet what you should really pick up. However, the easiest thing to do is just to go back. Go back to an era where things are not going to get reprinted again. That's Sword and Shield. And even Sword and Shield, the market has not picked up. Recently, about like a month and a half, 2 months ago, Sword and Shield did see another rise in price, but since then, prices have dipped. Some of them pretty much back to where they were almost before the dip or before the rise we saw like a couple months ago. And I feel like this really still is a great time to be picking up Sword and Shield booster boxes while the market is cooling off, even in Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield. I feel like Sword and Shield right now, some of these are really great pickups, and I do think there will be a time where Sword and Shield sees another run up soon. I really feel like it could be at the end of the year if the Pokemon market, after the summer is still strong. I do feel like Sword and Shield could pick up sometime at the end of the year, and I think some of these boxes at their price points are really great pickups, and nobody right now seemingly is really investing or talking about Sword and Shield stuff because there really isn't much going on. But that's sort of when you want to be buying this stuff, is when things aren't going crazy, because like we saw a couple months ago, it could literally be 1 week where prices like double. So I wanted to show you guys here some of the Sword and Shield booster boxes and which ones I think are really great pickups. So starting with Chilling Reign. So Chilling Reign right now is sitting at $400. These at one point were like around, were they at, I think they were around like 500 or getting pretty close to there during the whole like craziness, but recently have dropped below $400. As you can see, lowest listed is a little bit under 400. Chilling Reign, I feel like at 400 is still a great pickup. I think still, in a few years from now, I could see this going closer to $1,000. Obviously depending on the Pokemon market's conditions and what happens in a few years, but I do feel like all these Sword and Shield era booster boxes you're seeing here, I've talked about anywhere from like $400 to $1,000. I really feel like any of these boxes are great pickups. I mean, you look at Sun and Moon and how those boxes have performed within the last couple of years. I feel like Sword and Shield is going to follow, that suit somewhat. And I do feel like a lot of these Sword and Shield sets are great. And the fact that they're still around $400 and some of them at this point, Chilling Reign, is what, 4 years? I think it might be 4 years old at this point. I feel like $400 is really not that bad, considering also, Paldea Evolved. Paldea Evolved seemingly is going to hit 400 here relatively soon. So I feel like a lot of these Sword and Shield boxes that are in the low 400s or even some of them in the 300s, I feel like these ones are like pretty obvious pickups. And especially for new people, like I know if you've been watching my channel for a while now, I've literally been talking about Sword and Shield booster boxes being a great investment since like the start of my channel, which was like at this point, like it seems like a couple of years ago. So I've been saying this whole time, and I still say that it's a great pickup. Until these, in a few years from now, I think are 1,000 plus all across the board, then it might be a different story. But Chilling Reign at 400, I still think is a good pickup. Now, if you go on eBay, you're not going to really find them for any cheaper. There's one box here for 410, 430, but lowest listed on TCG Player was a bit cheaper. But right now, since the market is sort of cooled off, I'd look locally if I were you guys. People maybe be starting to offload stuff during this sort of downtime in the market, and I feel like maybe you could find some good pickups there. So any of these boxes, I'd probably try to look locally first because you may be able to pick up some deals. So next here, Evolving Skies. So Evolving Skies really hasn't dropped since going up. They went from like 1,500 to around 2 grand during the whole craziness a couple months ago, and they pretty much stayed here. You're going to find them within a range of $1,900 to $2,000. Right now, lowest listed is $1,900. If you go on eBay, you're going to pretty much see the same thing here: $2,000, $1,900, like $1,950. So they're just ranging from $1,900 to $2,000. Once again, I would look locally if you're trying to buy any of these Sword and Shield boxes. Evolving Skies, it would probably be a little bit of a harder box to get a great deal on because it's Evolving Skies. But Evolving Skies still, I think at this price point, it is crazy to say, but if you think about just how Sun and Moon box have performed and Evolving Skies being like the top set by far, and I just feel like at 2 grand, if you have the money, like I've said, this so many times before, if you have the money to spend on like Evolving Skies, even I said this at when I was at like $700. If you have the money, I still think it's a good pickup. I genuinely do. But if you don't have the budget, or if it's going to take all your budget, then maybe there'll be some other options that may be better. But Evolving Skies is going to continue to go up. This box has just always gone up. It's really never gone down in price. So I think even in the down market, this is probably going to be where it's at. And you probably don't have to be super quick to buy anything, but if you find like a decent deal or a really nice box, if you can find them for 2,000 or below, I think still it's not a bad pickup. Now next here, Fusion Strike. This one has gone down pretty considerably. Granted that a couple months ago this peaked at like $900+ with sales, and right now they are selling for the low 700s. Right now lowest listed is like 760 on TCG Player, but if you actually go on eBay, you can find some of these for lower than that. You can see there's one right here for $710 that I clicked on. There's one here for $730. One here for $730. They're pretty easy to find in the low 700s. So if I were you, I'd still look locally. But low 700 for Fusion, the fact that it's dropped like $200 since it peaked, a little bit ago, I think that's a great opportunity to buy in. And I truly believe a lot of these Sword and Shield booster boxes have sort of bottomed out in terms of like, I guess, dipping from recently, I guess, that price increase we saw. I feel like these have sort of hit a bottom, and they are starting to plateau. But with any of these Sword and Shield boxes, I wouldn't be in a rush to buy any of them. But I'd definitely be on the radar to look out for any deals and any clean boxes because the market right now isn't hot for these. The next, Brilliant Stars. At one point, these were about $500. Now they are $400, so they've dropped $100. Brilliant Stars, I still think is a great pickup at $400. Just really, all these boxes you're gonna hear me saying they're great pickups because until the point where these get to like $1,000 plus boxes, I think these are all still great pickups. Brilliant Stars is around 400 on eBay. You're gonna find them for around like 420. You can see here there's like a lot of fake listings. I don't know why. Like these are fake right here. Don't buy these. This is fake. This one's fake. I clicked on them because I'm like, yeah, they're all. I mean, I could tell by this picture, but these ones are fake, so don't buy those. But they're around 400, low 400s. Brilliant. Still think it's a great pickup. Astral, this one's dropped a lot. This went up to $500. Astral Radiance booster boxes, and they've dropped pretty considerably. You can see right here, lowest listed on TCG Player is $375. If you go on eBay, you can find them for like $350. These ones dropped a ton. And Astral Radiance, it is sort of surprising that this is the box that went up to like $500 and Silver Tempest didn't. But if you look now where the prices are at, they're basically the same price. So Astral Radiance did see a huge price increase, but it's crashed a good amount compared to the other booster boxes, and it's pretty much back to where it was previously, and is basically the same price as Silver Tempest at this point. Now Lost Origin right now is at $500. This peaked at like $600. I think Lost Origin is a great pickup. You can find them for under $500. Lost Origin, this the Giratina this is gonna be one of those boxes at under 500 that I would really highly recommend. Like this one, I would definitely, in my opinion, pick over Chilling Reign just because of the Giratina, even though it is another like $50, $100 more than the Chilling Reign box. I think Lost Origin, the fact that this went down this much, you can buy them for sub 500. I think this is one of the best pickups because if you think about all the main sets from Sword and Shield, Evolving Skies stands out, Fusion Strike stands out, but other than that, it's a Lost Origin. And the fact that this is sub 500, I think this is one of the best buys out there right now, since it's gone down like $100 since peaking. Now lastly here, Silver Tempest. So Silver Tempest right now is basically the exact same price as Astral. And if I had to pick the two, I mean, you could say maybe Astral could be a better buy right now because of how much it's gone down since peaking. But I do think Silver Tempest is a better, set, just in my opinion. There are a few more chases in Astral Radiance, but Silver Tempest, the biggest thing is the Lugia and the Rayquaza. Those two Pokemon are way more popular than any other Pokemon in Astral. Astral has the Machamp, the Starmie. I mean, compare the two, Lugia, Rayquaza. I think so. I would take Silver Tempest at the same price. So that's just my opinion. You can see here Silver Tempest right now. It's selling for around $350, so you can buy them for $350, which is like the same price as Astral. And I'd pick this over Astral, but just in my opinion. So I just wanted to make this video just to show you guys that the Sword and Shield market right now is pretty dead, and boxes have dipped quite a bit from where they peaked at a couple months ago, and I think still right now is a great opportunity to buy these at this price point, because I don't think they're going to really drop much further, which may be the case with some of these newer Scarlet and Violet sets. Maybe they get restocked, the market stays a little, starts to cool off a bit, then you may see prices start to dip. But Sword and Shield at this point, I feel like has sort of bottomed, and I don't think they're gonna go much further down. So I wouldn't be in a rush to buy any of these, but at the same time, like if you find a good deal, I really wouldn't pass it up, because I feel like I really do have this weird feeling that at the end of this year we may see another increase in prices with these Sword and Shield boxes. If Scarlet and Violet continues to go up, I think people will go back to Sword and Shield, because the boxes that are in the 350s, $400 range, like like I said, Paldea Evolved is like $400. So you take that into consideration, Sword and Shield boxes may seem to be a really good opportunity. When those more boxes get to that price point, I think money will flow back to Sword and Shield. And a lot of these boxes right now that aren't really popular right now, I think they will get to that point. But I think just right now, just the whole market has sort of cooled off. But Sword and Shield is the safer play to buy stuff from than Scarlet and Violet, and there's just still a lot of great opportunities right now to buy these booster boxes. So that's all I want to show you guys here. Hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know if you've been picking any Sword and Shield boxes up, because they're still pretty good pickups, especially if you're new and you want to invest. I'd highly just recommend buying Sword and Shield, because you don't have to argue about, oh, is it going to go MSRP or not. You're just buying an out of print product, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's all I have to say here. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.